We're on case.
What?
We're on
case. The advantage, I guess. Topicality, interpretation, impermissible, almost overrule all decision, overrule means the way the person destroy the purpose, gifts, and everything to avoid the undisciplined purpose, overrule, destroys the values, personal one, survives the whole of you, the numerical ones, contradiction, or negative, one, lowest one number 8, and execution, the outcome preceding it represents the overall outcome of cases, no legal glossary, 2006, is a term document written in the form of position, and the clerk many ignorance and opinions written in the document, setting out the reason for reaching it, and the decision of B plan, the only limit, the plan only eliminates the element of the holding, it does not overrule the entire decision, and abolishes the precedent established by the case, and sees negative, the negative interpretation is superior, one always their interpretation, and links both the consequences are infinite number of combination, way partially overrule decision, the reason possible negative, so, like negative to ground impossible words, score, destroy for attack the ground, counter, originally guard by allowing from maintain, select elements, suppress and only by requiring complete overrule, the holding can be locked for the negative ground, and do have a voting issue, for reasons of fairness, education, and abuse, onto the discussion. A uniqueness from like the individual path from the section, but continued bipartisanship is key. This is Malcolm 2.6. The are better than you can think of this, and considering the new legislation next week, here goes the strong private system for or my encouragement Republicans and Democrats to act together. Nuclear legislation in the land, but session of Congress and the U.S. fully aware that this important local power discussion. Congress and the many times bring the next after the passage of the bill and a brief article regarding the legislators could be the next Supreme Court decision to ensure congressional partisanship and debate. This came from Johnson in 1999. Congress spoke with local points for grant, judicial policies, Congress County more states and lies permanent consider some work, especially when you're having some Congress support for local voice, showing your rights to the indignation on behalf of the significant legislature and feels to involvement in beyond their relevant responsible constituents. Legislature personally involved in the courts right now, unless they have read this, especially if also have only recently been enacted, and I see impact today. The bill does not get all lame duck session will die. This is go out to if I go to the lame duck bill will have to revert to the new house where it's never done by Democrats that haven't found filtration law. We'll see opportunity to flip on to bring amendments addressing our concern the next Indian bill code relations to Indian and Asian talk. And yeah, it was supposed to use Congress involving the dealing and involving our brand without country want to render security. They want also make the point emphasis in nuclear deals and relations with the U.S. and even traditional war setting a vocation to be fully articulated see relations on nuclear war and who are currently having to putting relations with American and Indian nuclear leaders with who important talks and Senate put a rest of here and we have some use holding deep military has a U.S. major leverage in international war with India and Mexico leading nuclear politics and so we have in Pakistan and Compton. The 50 state courts will rule that parental notification and parental requirements are unconstitutional federal courts from here and no more parents will clarify and the Congress avoided all the dissents to Supreme Court action and see solvency one state constitutional from best protects individual liberties. This is Gardner 2003. Right? The state constitution revoked by the state courts versus national government to state court officers of those Greek which can influence permission of Republican officials from the Department of federal rights and constitutional rules nationwide. Look at some of the state level after the Supreme Court sometimes reports up into unconstitutional decision making for first creates cases in which otherwise protective behaviors may be lawyers and next state constitutional which protect abortion rights. This is not in terms of more safe and constitutional or contest explicit regarding protection of individual liberties and use constitution take place on the restrictions on rules for abortion outside state constitutional opportunity Supreme Court has no federal constitutional right including state Canada will act to their state constitutional rights results ban on the mandated U.S. Constitution and onto the criticism. A reform of the law to become ethical is problematic because the AI system of ethics demands that we reform to an object which ignores that desire that perpetuates the harms in the first place. Only by acknowledging the desire structures first and making a radical break from that desire can we have ethics as advanced in 2001. Cannot be wrong the ethical radical elevation by pursuing more and more refined goals instead we out here not just creating more and pathological to ethical U.S. purification as the asymmetric approach to ethical ideal. The genuine ethical act is always so very simple, it's never simple or reform the expression of high physical desires to all meaningful and used to indicate the fact that for a reason itself is not practical, though higher fact of desire that refers to the subject is determined by pure desire, which does not have any particular object, but rather the very act of desiring refers to the ability of desire as a priori, and B, the affirmative blinds us to effective solutions while simultaneously perpetuating the harms. Ethics is not possible via their methodology because they rely rely on the ideology of law that destroys our responsibility. The other via mediation. This is Hirschak in 1999. Available technologies in case of which will degenerate consistently individual uses of dramatic rules for our limited independence and permanent local civilization. So we exclude from community supposed to remain available in premier technological debate. As this as led to righteous violence regarding perception of the area of colonization by using same information technology to avoid those individuals and institutions that an equitable distribution of power and wealth is like this may ignore the efforts and beat them on their own game. However, this is also remains the same playing field, playing the same data, as that aligned to our deep submission that technology control the subsequent completion. Plus, that those kind of research need to meaningfully acquire factual certainty to be them as needed because such as wine is particular limited. The more successful technology is, the more accessible becomes. That is, the technologies are live. The present will be almost to generate more problems. So they functions, the NVIDIA amplifiers are experienced conditioning technology to create a gravitational black hole funneling in all available attention energy and to themselves more successfully extend the elements control more reach on the range of what we can must be control the increased energy investment of the is already but after the completion of exercise. So those areas such as need for realizing massively satisfying and really eventually sufficient resolution solutions for both personal the methodological irony of subtractivism is not frees from dependence, but rather sustains the very possibility of ensuring our independence by means of structuring institutions that mediate our country with one and renders us dependent on those institutions, on the structure, and hence the technologies of our mediation. In consequence, our freedom comes to be increasingly dependent on the rationalization and regulation of our relationships with one another. Activism denies the full set of conditions sponsoring our present situation. It consists of constructing legal mechanisms for a certain form of control over institutional structures and the process of any which individual play or force or play particular roles they are in beneficiaries of social activism or effectively cut off the aspect of the self-understanding which for the minds of research invested localizing meaningful alternatives patterns of injustice and found themselves embedded among these productive activism. Thus, vital communities and individuals have no immediate dramatically responsive relationship to one another. Individuals have relinquished or abandoned the intimate concerns of the cousin and division of both their troubles and social meaningful resolution of the also challenges of our intellectual control. Social activism liable for rendering itself indispensable effectual coexistence and remain largely untended. In part, this is because the legal basis of social activism has appeared as one exclusively practical legislation of laws for direct restructuring power and negotiating, just like the highest laws, the legislative processes become the technology for mediating emergent claims of effects of our coexistence for preserving their definitions of being right and being wrong, and see our alternative is to reject the affirmative to allow radical reorientation of ethics. Only the transgressive act of rejection allows us to disrupt the ideological assumption that the harms of the act demands dependence on reformist policies. This is June Handshake in 2000. Any ethical act potentially incorrect as an act is necessarily evil. This evil belongs to return to the act later on because it changes not a matter of some empirical evil. It's a very logical act which denounce the radical evil and very ideology. The fundamental ideology gesture consists of providing an image for the structural evil. The gap opening on an act is linked to an image. This result of the image of suffering most played public along. So the question is what you want. And this question already implies the answer could be possibly inhuman for you to do. You want to have you insist on who are going to separate this from the body ideology for real source of uneasiness from the evil which not desired affective is good but belongs to, on the contrary, to its essence. The current saturation of the social field by the ethical dilemmas is strictly correlative to the representations of the repression of ethics such as an incapacity to think ethics in dimension to the real, an incapacity to conceive of ethics other than simply as a set of restrictions and tended to prevent greater evil and go on to case. One term of representation justifies abandoning statutory rapefuls and child pornography laws. These are actions and decisions made by the abuser, not the child. And choose their Jarzinski, a card, and more. Their when I see card says ethics cannot exist within the law, and that the law will always contain lack. Their card contains solvency, turned up against them insolvency evidence for our criticism. And next, they have no evidence that indicates overruling Casey will explode the adult child fantasy or this innocence. They fiat the removal, for example, of juvenile sentencing or other recognition of youth as innocent, which would allow for the perpetuation of these representations of their harms to occur. They force them to produce a piece of evidence that says that ruling in the Casey decision would snowball and lead to a reinterpretation of the court deciding other things like juvenile sentencing. This issue, they do not have one because the Roberts Court is the Roberts and Alito Court of clean douches. And next, parental notification is good because it provides parental notification is key to exposing instances of sexual abuse. This is hard to prosecute. And 2004, the Vice President's parental abandonment amended the abortion decision justified by not raising parents because the daughter selected company decision were provided. And it's a main question to provide emotional support for the emotional person who tried as a result for mental sexual exploitation of nature studies.
What's the status of the counterpoint?
What?
Status of the counterpoint?
We'll either go for the counter plan or the
So if you
criticism.
have a critique linked to the counter plan, why do you vote negative?
They're separate worlds. They can't.
Why you indict our methodology?
We get two worlds. That's our argument.
Get two worlds.
Yes.
Even if those
We
worlds
don't get the
contradict.
status quo, counter plan, or K.
And even if they contradict. Like
Yes.
the impact.
They're separate worlds. That's our argument. If you disagree with that, read through
I
it.
do disagree with that, but that's okay. Okay, so
I
your
mean,
criticism.
we recognize that the counter plan links to the net benefit too.
So why would you reject the
Link
affirmative?
to the criticism.
What's the work for rejecting the affirmative in this debate?
Well, if we go for the criticism in the 2&R, then we wouldn't go for
Like,
the counter.
what is the criticism? What's the argument that you're making?
The argument is that letting ethics lie at the level of the Supreme Court, or letting the responsibility lie at the level of the Supreme Court, is bad because it wipes our individual responsibility or our individual ethics.
Okay, so the 1AC says, listen, we all need to take responsibility for our fantasies.
No. You did not say we all. You said the Supreme. You specifically said the Supreme Court needs to.
Well, what you say is different than what you do. That's our argument.
I'm confused.
Okay.
Where in the
Can you-
1AC is that true?
Your plain text.
Okay, the plan text says
Your starting
that the
point
nine
is the
people-
Supreme Court. That's your
Right,
starting
the
point for
resolution
ethics.
says that there
Our
are-
starting point is rejection of
Okay,
that.
cool. Who is responsible for the Casey decision?
Who?
Yes.
Our desire structures
Who is
within
desire
all of
structures?
us. The Supreme Court is us. The Supreme Court's not a separate entity.
Fantastic. Okay. So why
The
is
Supreme
plan
Court rules based off society. So if we
Okay.
So in order to have a universal responsibility, you cannot act reform through the state because then the state is the sole stakeholder of ethics.
I'm confused.
Only the state has to have universal
So if we
responsibility
say-
to the other, not individuals.
where is that in the 1AC?
That's our evidence.
What
That's our
evidence?
claim that we say you caused.
We cause it?
Yes,
So this is
that's
a
our
causal
first
question? Like, okay.
It's our impact to
I
our
understand. No,
criticism.
I'm saying like the Supreme Court acting causes something. Is that your argument or no?
You
say that
yes,
you
I mean, it
caused
causes
it.
a society where we wouldn't have ethics.
Okay, cool. What's the
An
impact of not
unethical society.
Cool. What's the impact of not having ethics?
Well, your evidence indicates that leads to genocide. Our evidence also indicates that it leads to the recreation of your harms. That's all that was read in the Millions.
Okay, so you say that performing the law to become ethical is problematic, etc. Only by acknowledging the desire structure first and making a radical break from that desire
From
to become ethical.
reform in law.
Okay. Why isn't the 1AC?
You may recognize that there's no.
So like the 1AC structure is like here is the fantasy and here's how we should go about.
And then you
that
still
with the
say
law.
we should use the Supreme Court.
Right. You don't
So
say
that
your
means
argument is
you're
that
not effective.
your argument is that we should ignore the Supreme Court or that we should do everything.
That if we have a universal responsibility with
That
the
everyone
other,
should do,
then a
right?
Supreme Court action wouldn't be necessary.
Okay. But would it?
And
Well,
that
I mean, I
uses
think
Supreme
your
Court
argument.
action.
Your argument seems to.
Arguments that rely
I'm
on
gonna continue
some-
this in cross-sex real quick because I need to.
Yeah, I'm paying no attention to that.
It's